The message came through every communication channel at once. Every radio, every screen, every device capable of receiving signals suddenly displayed the same terrifying image. A massive alien figure filled the displays, its face a mix of reptile and nightmare. The creature's yellow eyes blazed with hatred as it spoke in perfect English. "I am Warlord Vorthak of the Krex Empire," the alien declared. "Your pathetic species has spread across our galaxy like a disease. You build your little colonies on worlds that belong to us. You mine our resources. You breathe our air." Admiral Lisa Parker stood in the command center of Earth's Defense Headquarters, watching the broadcast with growing dread. Around her, officers and technicians worked frantically to trace the signal's origin. Every attempt failed. The aliens' technology was far beyond anything Earth possessed. "But I am not without honor," Vorthak continued. "I will give your species one chance to prove you deserve to exist. Send me your greatest champion, your best warrior, your most skilled fighter. If they can defeat me in single combat, your colonies will be spared. If they fail, every human settlement beyond your home world will burn." The creature leaned closer to whatever device was recording him. Its massive, clawed hands gripped what looked like a throne made from the bones of some unfortunate creature. "You have 7 of your days to decide. The combat will take place at the neutral station orbiting the star you call Wolf 359. Come alone. Come armed. Come prepared to die for your species." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving only static. The command center erupted in chaos. Officers shouted questions and orders. Communication specialists tried to contact the outer colonies. Military analysts pulled up every piece of intelligence they had on alien species. Admiral Parker stood silent in the middle of it all, her mind racing. She had seen the reports. Small human settlements on the frontier had gone dark over the past month. Search and rescue teams found nothing but glass craters where thriving communities once stood. Now she knew who was responsible. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Katie Walsh approached her desk. "We're getting reports from across the colonies. The same message was broadcast everywhere. Panic is starting to spread." Lisa nodded grimly. "Contact the Joint Chiefs, emergency session in 1 hour, and get me everything we have on this Vorthak character." "Yes, ma'am. There's something else. We're already getting volunteers." That surprised her. "Volunteers for what?" "To fight this thing. Messages are pouring in from military personnel across all branches. Everyone wants to be Earth's champion." Lisa almost smiled, despite the situation. That was humanity for you. Face them with an impossible challenge, and they would line up to take it on. Start a list, but make it clear that this is likely a suicide mission. The next few hours were a blur of meetings, reports, and arguments. The Joint Chiefs debated sending their most decorated general. The Special Forces community pushed for their top operators. Scientists suggested waiting to develop new weapons or enhancing a volunteer with experimental drugs. Every suggestion had problems. Their best generals were old and out of fighting shape. Special operators were trained for teams, not single combat. The experimental enhancements were untested and dangerous. And they only had 7 days. On the 3rd day, Lisa sat in her office reviewing personnel files when her aide knocked on the door. "Admiral, there's a Marine here to see you. Says it's about the Vorthak situation. Send him in." The man who entered was not what she expected. Captain Jake Morrison looked like he had been carved from stone by someone who believed in function over form. His uniform was perfectly pressed, but she could see old scars on his hands and neck. His eyes held the steady gaze of someone who had seen too much and kept going anyway. "Captain Morrison reporting, ma'am." "At ease, Captain. What can I do for you?" "I want to volunteer for the mission, ma'am." Lisa looked at his file on her screen. Jake Morrison, age 32, from Detroit. No special training or enhancements. No academy education. He had worked his way up from private through sheer determination and competence. His record showed dozens of deployments to the frontier colonies, always volunteering for the most dangerous. "Assignments! Captain, this isn't a normal mission. This is single combat against an alien warlord. We need someone with special abilities, enhanced genetics, or at least formal combat training." Jake's expression did not change. "With respect, ma'am, I've been in combat for 12 years. I've fought pirates, rebels, and things that would give most people nightmares. I know how to stay alive when everything wants me dead. This is different. This creature is 9 feet tall and has natural armor. He's probably been fighting longer than you've been alive. Maybe. But he's never fought a Marine." Something in his voice made her look closer. "Why do you want this assignment, Captain? And don't give me some speech about duty and honor." Jake was quiet for a moment. "Because someone has to go. And because I've seen what happens when we don't fight back. I've pulled survivors out of burning colonies. I've watched good people die because they couldn't defend themselves." He paused. "This thing wants to take more colonies. More people will die if someone doesn't stop him. And you think you can?" "I think I can try harder than anyone else will." Lisa studied him for a long moment. "What would you need?" "My rifle, my gear, and 1 special bullet." "Special how?" "I want his name engraved on it." Despite everything, Lisa found herself believing him. There was something about Jake Morrison that reminded her why humanity had survived everything from ice ages to world wars. They did not give up. They did not quit. When faced with impossible odds, they found a way. "I'll consider your request, Captain." "Thank you, ma'am." After he left, Lisa sat back in her chair and thought about the choice ahead of her. She could send their best enhanced soldier, their smartest scientist, or their most decorated officer. Or she could send a Marine from Detroit who wanted to engrave an alien's name on a bullet. The choice, she realized, was easier than she had expected. Jake Morrison sat in the small office across from Dr. Amanda Cruz, the military's chief psychologist. She had been studying his file for the past hour, occasionally looking up at him with confusion. He did not blame her. On paper, he was nobody special. "Tell me about your childhood, Captain," she said, setting down the thick folder. "Grew up in Detroit. Dad owned a garage. Mom worked at the factory. Pretty normal stuff. Your father taught you mechanics?" "Yeah. Started when I was 8. By 15, I could rebuild an engine blindfolded." Jake shifted in his chair. "Is this really necessary, Doc? There's not much time left." Dr. Cruz ignored his question. "Why did you join the Marines instead of taking over the garage?" Jake thought about his answer. "Dad wanted me to stay. Said the garage would be mine someday, but I wanted to see what else was out there. When the colony ships started going out, I knew I wanted to be part of it." "So you joined the military to travel?" "At first, maybe. But after basic training, it became something else. The Corps became my family. The other Marines became my brothers and sisters. When someone threatens your family, you fight back." Dr. Cruz made notes on her tablet. "Your record shows you volunteered for dangerous assignments throughout your career. Why?" "Because someone has to do them, and because the dangerous jobs usually matter the most." Captain, I need to understand why you think you can succeed where enhanced soldiers might fail. You have no genetic modifications, no special abilities, no advanced training in alien combat techniques. Jake leaned forward slightly. Doc, let me ask you something. What makes a good mechanic? She blinked at the change of subject. I suppose technical knowledge and experience. Those help. But the best mechanics I know have something else. They don't give up. When they've got a broken engine in front of them, they keep working until it runs again. They try different approaches. They learn from their mistakes. They don't quit. And you think that applies to combat? I think it applies to everything that matters. Dr. Cruz consulted her notes again. Your psychological profile shows remarkable stress resistance. You've been in 17 major engagements, lost friends in combat, and seen things that would traumatize most people. Yet you show no signs of post-traumatic stress. I process things differently, I guess. How? Jake was quiet for a moment. When bad things happen, I focus on what I can control. I can't bring back the dead. I can't undo the past. But I can make sure their sacrifice meant something. I can keep fighting so other people don't have to die. Is that what this is about? Sacrifice? No. This is about doing a job that needs doing. Dr. Cruz set down her tablet and studied him directly. Captain, I've interviewed dozens of volunteers for this mission. They all have impressive qualifications, enhanced reflexes, advanced combat training, strategic genius. What makes you different? Maybe nothing. Maybe I'm just too stubborn to know when I'm beaten. Or maybe you understand something they don't. Jake waited for her to continue. Most of our enhanced soldiers think in terms of superior firepower or tactical advantage. They want to win through strength or speed or technology. But you're thinking like a mechanic facing a broken engine. How's that? You're not trying to overpower the problem. You're trying to understand it and find its weakness. Jake nodded slowly. Every machine has a weak point. Every enemy has a mistake they'll make. You just have to be patient enough to find it and tough enough to survive until you do. Meanwhile, in Admiral Parker's office, the debate continued. General Robert Hayes argued for sending Colonel Frank Bennett, their most decorated officer. Director Sam Rodriguez from Special Operations wanted to send one of his enhanced operatives. Dr. Helen Martinez from the Science Division pushed for more time to develop new weapons. We're running out of time, Admiral Parker said. We need to make a decision today. Lisa, with all due respect, sending that Marine is suicide, General Hayes said. Morrison is a good soldier, but this isn't a normal combat situation. What if that's exactly why he's the right choice? She replied. What do you mean? This Vorthak expects us to send our biggest, strongest, most advanced warrior. He's probably spent his whole life fighting creatures like that. But what if we send someone completely different? Director Rodriguez shook his head. Admiral, enhanced reflexes and strength aren't optional for this kind of combat. Morrison is tough, but he's still just human. Maybe that's his advantage. Dr. Martinez pulled up Morrison's test scores on her tablet. His intelligence scores are above average but not exceptional. Physical capabilities are peak human but unenhanced. Combat skills are excellent but not superhuman. I don't see any measurable advantage. Admiral Parker stood and walked to the window overlooking the training grounds. Below, she could see Marines running drills, their movements precise and coordinated. 20 years ago, I was a young lieutenant on a colony ship, she said. We got hit by pirates. Our security team was outnumbered 3-1. They had better weapons, better ships, better everything. But we had 3 Marines on board. She turned back to face the room. Those Marines didn't win through superior firepower. They won because they refused to lose. They adapted. They improvised. They turned every disadvantage into an opportunity. By the time it was over, the pirates were running. "That's a nice story, Lisa, but this is different," General Hayes said. "Is it? Or are we overthinking this?" Her communicator beeped. "Admiral Parker, Dr. Cruz is here with Captain Morrison's psychological evaluation." "Send her in." Dr. Cruz entered with her tablet and a serious expression. "Admiral, I've completed my evaluation of Captain Morrison." "And?" "He's either the worst possible choice for this mission or the best." The room fell silent. "Explain," Admiral Parker said. "By every conventional measure, he shouldn't even be considered. But there's something about his psychological makeup that's unusual. He doesn't think like other soldiers. He doesn't see impossible odds as a reason to give up. He sees them as a puzzle to solve." Dr. Cruz activated her tablet and projected Morrison's test results. He scored highest in adaptability, problem-solving under pressure, and stress resistance. But most importantly, he shows no fear of failure. "No fear?" Director Rodriguez asked. "He's not reckless. He just doesn't let the possibility of failure stop him from trying. In his mind, the only real failure is not trying at all." Admiral Parker made her decision. "Prep Captain Morrison for departure. He's our champion." The USS Defiance was humanity's newest warship, built for deep space missions and equipped with the latest technology. As it prepared to depart for Wolf 359, the ship buzzed with activity. Everyone aboard knew they were carrying Earth's only hope. Jake Morrison stood in the armory with Master Sergeant Sam Rodriguez, the ship's weapons specialist. Between them on the table lay Jake's rifle, broken down into its component parts. Sam had been working on it for 2 days straight. "This is a good weapon," Sam said, examining the barrel through a magnifying scope. "How long have you had it?" 8 years. It's seen me through a lot of fights, I can tell. The wear patterns show consistent maintenance and heavy use. You've taken good care of it." Sam began reassembling the rifle with practiced precision. "I've made some modifications. Better scope, improved stabilization, and I've tuned the action for maximum accuracy." Jake picked up the completed weapon and tested its weight and balance. It felt familiar, yet somehow better. "What about the bullet?" Sam reached into a small case and withdrew a single round. The brass casing gleamed under the lights, and engraved along its length in elegant script was the name Vorthak. "Armor-piercing core, explosive tip, and blessed by 3 different chaplains," Sam said with a slight smile. "If there's any justice in the universe, this will do the job. And if there isn't, then you'll have to rely on skill and luck like the rest of us." Jake loaded the special bullet into the rifle's chamber and engaged the safety. "Thanks, Sam. I owe you one. Just come back alive and we'll call it even." Across the ship, Lieutenant Katie Walsh sat at her communication station, monitoring alien chatter from across the galaxy. The conversation between species was unlike anything she had ever heard. Most seemed confused by humanity's choice of champion. "The humans have made their selection," one transmission read. "They are sending an unenhanced warrior with primitive weapons. Perhaps they seek to insult Warlord Vorthak," came the reply. "Or perhaps they have given up hope entirely." Katie frowned and switched to another frequency. This one carried the voices of what seemed to be bookmakers taking bets on the outcome of the duel. "Current odds favor Vorthak 50-1. The alien voice announced. "No bets accepted on human victory below 100-1. She was about to switch channels again when a different voice cut through the chatter. This one spoke in the clicking language of the Zephyrian traders. "I have fought alongside humans in the frontier wars," the voice said. "Their champions are not always the largest or strongest, Sometimes they are simply the most determined. "You would bet against Warthak?" another voice asked. "I would not bet against any human who volunteers for certain death." Katie made notes of everything she heard. Intelligence about alien expectations might prove useful, but more than that, she found herself believing in their mission. Jake Morrison might not look like a traditional champion, but there was something about him that inspired confidence. In the ship's medical bay, Dr. Paul Carter ran final tests on Jake's physical condition. The results were exactly what he expected. Peak human condition, but nothing extraordinary. Blood pressure normal, reflexes excellent. No signs of enhancement drugs or genetic modification, he reported to Admiral Parker via secure channel. "Whatever edge Captain Morrison has, it's not chemical or biological." "That's probably for the best," came the reply. "This fight will be won with training and determination, not artificial advantages." 3 decks up, Jake sat in his quarters writing letters. He had started the tradition years ago before difficult missions. Most of the letters were never sent, but writing them helped him organize his thoughts. The first letter was to his father, back in Detroit. Jake wrote about the garage, about the cars they had fixed together, about the lessons his father had taught him. He did not mention where he was going or why. The second letter was to his sister Mary, who worked as a teacher in New Angeles Colony. He wrote about her students, about the future humanity was building among the stars, about how proud he was of the work she did. The third letter was to his fellow Marines. This one was different. In it, he tried to explain why he had volunteered, why this mission mattered, and what he hoped to accomplish. "Fighting isn't about being the strongest or the fastest," he wrote. "It's about being willing to stand up when standing up matters. It's about protecting people who can't protect themselves. It's about refusing to quit when quitting would be easier." He sealed the letters in his footlocker. If he didn't come back, someone would find them eventually. Captain Linda Hayes, the Defiance's commanding officer, found Jake in the observation deck looking out at the stars. They were approaching the jump point that would take them to Wolf 359. "How are you feeling, Captain?" she asked. "Ready." She joined him at the window. "Can I ask you something? Off the record?" Jake nodded. "Do you really think you can win?" Jake considered the question carefully. "I think I can try harder than Vorthak expects. I think I can make him work for his victory. And I think that might be enough." "Enough for what?" "To find his weakness. Every fighter has one. Every strategy has a flaw. I just have to survive long enough to figure out what his is." Captain Hayes studied his profile in the starlight. "The crew has been talking. They think you're either very brave or very crazy. Maybe both. They also think you're going to win." That surprised him. "Why?" "Because you volunteered. Not for glory or recognition, but because someone had to. That's the kind of person who finds a way to succeed." The intercom crackled to life. "All hands, prepare for jump to Wolf 359. Arrival in the system in 6 hours." Jake felt the familiar sensation as the ship's faster-than-light drive engaged. Space around them twisted and folded, carrying them toward a confrontation that would determine humanity's future. In the final hours before arrival, Jake went through his pre-combat routine. He cleaned his rifle one more time, checked his gear, and ran through various scenarios in his mind. He thought about everything he had learned in 12 years of service. The lessons came from many sources: drill instructors who taught him to shoot, sergeants who showed him how to survive, fellow Marines who demonstrated courage under fire, but the most important lesson came from his father, spoken over the engine of a broken car in a Detroit garage. "Every problem has a solution. You just have to be patient enough to find it and tough enough to see it through. As the Defiance approached Wolf 359, Jake Morrison prepared to test that philosophy against the galaxy's most feared warrior. Win or lose, he would represent not just Earth, but every human who had ever refused to give up when the odds were against them. The stars watched silently as humanity's unlikely champion prepared for battle. The neutral station orbiting Wolf 359 was a marvel of engineering that represented dozens of alien civilizations. Each section reflected the architectural style of a different species, creating a patchwork of metals, crystals, and materials Jake could not identify. The station was massive, easily 10 kilometers across, with sections that rotated slowly to provide gravity for species that required it. Jake stood at the observation port of the Defiance's shuttle as they approached the docking bay. Around them, ships from across the galaxy had gathered to witness the duel. Some were sleek and elegant, others looked like they were carved from asteroids. All of them dwarfed the small human shuttle. "First time seeing this many alien species in one place?" asked Commander Tony Blake, the shuttle pilot. "Yeah, it's something. Most of them are here to watch you die," Blake said matter-of-factly. "You okay with that?" Jake adjusted the strap of his rifle case. "They can watch whatever they want. I'm here to do a job." The docking procedure took 30 minutes as the station's automated systems guided them through layers of security. Jake could see weapon scanners and shield generators built into every surface. Whatever else this place was, it was designed to contain violence. When they finally docked, Jake was surprised by the delegation waiting for them. A tall, graceful alien with blue skin and silver robes stepped forward. Behind it stood representatives from at least 6 other species. "Welcome, human champion," the blue alien said in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Thyril of the Galactic Mediation Council. We are here to ensure this duel follows proper protocols." Jake nodded politely. "Captain Jake Morrison, Earth Defense Forces." Thyril's large eyes studied him carefully. "Forgive my directness, Captain, but you are not what we expected." "What did you expect?" "Someone larger, enhanced, modified for combat." The alien gestured toward Jake's standard equipment. "Your weapons appear primitive by galactic standards." "They work." A reptilian alien stepped forward, its scales catching the light. "I am War Speaker Drex of the Hegemony. I have come to witness your defeat personally. Warlord Vorthak has never lost in single combat." "There's a first time for everything," Jake replied calmly. Drex made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your species' arrogance is amusing. Vorthak has killed champions from 17 different worlds. What makes you think you will succeed where they failed?" "I don't think. I plan." The delegation led Jake through corridors filled with beings from across the galaxy. He saw creatures that looked like walking trees, others that seemed to be made of living metal, and things that defied easy description. All of them stopped to stare at the human champion. "The betting pools heavily favor Vorthak," Thyril explained as they walked. "Current odds are 80-1 against you." "Good to know." "Does this not concern you?" Jake thought about it. "Not really. I've never been in a fair fight in my life. I'm used to bad odds." They reached the preparation chambers near the arena. The room assigned to Jake was simple: a bench, some basic equipment, and a small alcove for his gear. Through a transparent wall, he could see the arena itself. It was enormous. The floor was covered with different types of terrain: Rocky outcroppings, metal platforms, sandy areas, and what looked like a small forest. The ceiling was transparent, showing the stars beyond. Tiered seating rose up on all sides, already filling with spectators. The arena simulates various planetary environments, Thorell explained. This ensures no species has an environmental advantage. Makes sense. You have 1 hour to prepare. The duel begins when both combatants enter the arena simultaneously. After the delegation left, Jake was alone with his thoughts. He systematically checked his equipment: rifle, ammunition, combat knife, water, basic medical supplies. Everything was in perfect condition. Through the wall, he watched as the alien spectators continued to arrive. The variety was overwhelming. Some floated in specialized atmospheric suits, others clung to the walls with clawed appendages. A few looked vaguely human, while others were so alien he could not determine which end was the head. A new sound echoed through the station, a rhythmic pounding that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The alien spectators grew quiet, turning toward one of the arena entrances. Warlord Vorthak had arrived. Jake got his first good look at his opponent as the massive figure emerged onto a viewing platform. Vorthak was even larger than the transmissions, had suggested nearly 10 feet tall and built like a living tank. His skin was a dark green-black that seemed to absorb light. Natural armor plates covered his chest, shoulders, and back. His arms were longer than human proportions would suggest, ending in hands that could probably crush a human skull. But it was Vorthak's face that was truly intimidating. It was reptilian but intelligent, with yellow eyes that missed nothing. When he opened his mouth to address the crowd, Jake could see rows of sharp teeth designed for tearing flesh. "Citizens of the galaxy!" Vorthak's voice boomed through the arena's speakers. "Today you witness the end of human expansion. Their so-called champion has come to face me." The warlord gestured dismissively. "Look at him. Small, weak, armed with primitive weapons." The crowd responded with various sounds that Jake assumed were expressions of approval or excitement. "I have killed the champions of 17 worlds," Vorthak continued. "I have never been defeated in single combat. Today, I add humanity to my list of conquered species." Jake watched the performance with professional interest. Vorthak was playing to the crowd, building his own legend. But there was something else. The warlord kept glancing toward Jake's preparation chamber, studying his opponent. "He's nervous," Jake realized. Not afraid, but uncertain. Vorthak had probably researched every detail about his previous opponents. He knew their species, their capabilities, their weapons. But humans were relatively new to the galactic community. There wasn't much data available. That uncertainty was Jake's first advantage. A chime sounded through the preparation chamber. 30 minutes until the duel begins," an automated voice announced. Jake spent the time in quiet meditation, running through everything he knew about his opponent. Vorthak was large and strong, but that mass would make him slower. The natural armor would deflect most attacks, but armor always had joints and gaps. The warlord's overconfidence might lead him to make mistakes. Most importantly, Vorthak expected to face someone who would try to match him strength for strength. Instead, he would face a Marine who understood that the best way to fight a superior enemy was to make them fight your kind of battle, not theirs. 10 minutes until commencement," the voice announced. Jake loaded his rifle and chambered the special bullet with Vorthak's name on it. He slung the weapon across his back and moved to the arena entrance. Through the doorway, he could see the vast space where his fate would be decided. The crowd had grown silent, sensing that the moment was at hand. Thousands of alien eyes focused on the two entrances to the arena floor. "Combatants, prepare for entry," the voice commanded. Jake stepped up to the threshold. Across the arena, he could see Vorthak doing the same. The Warlord held a massive weapon that looked like a cross between a sword and an energy cannon. His armor gleamed under the arena lights. "Arena entry in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, begin." The doors opened simultaneously. Jake Morrison, a Marine from Detroit, walked calmly into the arena to face the galaxy's most feared warrior. Behind him, he could hear the whispered conversations of alien spectators, most of whom expected to witness his quick and brutal death. Jake had other plans. The arena floor felt solid under Jake's boots as he moved away from the entrance. He kept his rifle ready but not raised, projecting calm confidence while his mind mapped every detail of the terrain around him. The rocky outcroppings would provide cover. The metal platforms might give him elevation advantages. The sandy area would slow down Vorthak's charges. Across the arena, Warlord Vorthak strode forward with the confidence of someone who had never lost. His massive weapon hummed with energy, and his yellow eyes tracked Jake's every movement. The distance between them was about 200 meters, perfect range for Jake's rifle. "Human." Vorthak's voice echoed through the arena without amplification. His species apparently had natural projection abilities. "I am curious about your species. 17 champions have faced me. All were enhanced, modified, or blessed by their gods. You appear to be nothing special." Jake continued moving laterally, using the terrain to break up Vorthak's line of sight. "Appearances can be deceiving." "Indeed. Perhaps you have hidden abilities, secret weapons, ancient magic?" "Nope. Just a Marine and his rifle." Vorthak stopped walking and tilted his massive head. "That is disappointing. I expected more from the species that has spread so quickly across our galaxy. Sorry to let you down." The Warlord raised his weapon, a move that caused excited murmurs from the alien spectators. "Very well. Let us see what tricks your primitive technology can accomplish." Energy beams lanced out from Vorthak's weapon, striking the ground where Jake had been standing a moment before. The Marine was already moving, using a rocky outcropping for cover as molten stones splattered around him. Jake rolled behind the rocks and came up with his rifle ready. He had expected energy weapons, but seeing them in action told him useful information. The beams were powerful but took time to charge between shots. The weapon was also heavy enough that Vorthak needed both hands to aim it accurately. "Running already, human? Your predecessors at least tried to fight." Jake ignored the taunt and moved to a new position. Patience was key. Let Vorthak come to him. Let the alien get frustrated and make mistakes. More energy beams struck around. His position, but Jake was already gone. He sprinted across the sandy section of the arena, his boots finding good traction where Vorthak's clawed feet would sink in. The Warlord pursued, moving faster than Jake had expected for something so large, but the sand did slow him down. Just enough to validate Jake's tactical assessment. From his new position behind a metal platform, Jake finally had a clear shot. He raised his rifle and fired. The bullet struck Vorthak's center mass and bounced off. Harmlessly, the Warlord's natural armor was as effective as it looked. "Is that the best your primitive weapon can do?" Vorthak called out, not even slowing his advance. Jake was already moving again, but now he had learned something important. The armor was strong but not invincible. The impact had left a small mark, proving that enough force applied to the right spot could penetrate it. The chase continued for several minutes, with Vorthak firing energy beams and Jake staying mobile. To the alien spectators, it probably looked like the human was simply trying to avoid the inevitable. But Jake was gathering intelligence with every exchange. Vorthak's weapon needed 30 seconds to fully recharge between maximum power shots. The Warlord's armor had joint gaps at the shoulders, hips, and neck. His pursuit pattern showed he favored his right side, possibly indicating an old injury. Most importantly, he was getting frustrated. "Stand and fight, coward," Vorthak roared, firing multiple rapid shots that were less powerful but more frequent. Jake dove behind a cluster of crystalline formations that had been placed to represent an alien environment. The energy beams shattered the crystals, sending razor-sharp fragments flying. One piece caught Jake across the cheek, drawing blood. "There," Vorthak said with satisfaction. "First blood to me. How many more cuts before you fall?" Jake wiped the blood away and smiled. "Plenty." The next phase of the battle was more intense. Vorthak had given up on precision in favor of overwhelming firepower. Energy beams crisscrossed the arena, keeping Jake constantly moving. But the Warlord was also moving closer, trying to force a confrontation in close quarters where his size and strength would be decisive. Jake let him come. When Vorthak was within 50 meters, Jake suddenly changed tactics. Instead of running away, he sprinted directly toward his opponent. The Warlord was so surprised by the sudden charge that his next shot went wide. Jake slid under the energy beam and came up directly in front of Vorthak, well inside the optimal range for the alien's massive weapon. At this distance, the rifle was useless, so Jake drew his combat knife. Vorthak swung his weapon like a club, trying to crush the small human. Jake ducked under the swing and slashed at the Warlord's left hip joint. The blade found the gap in the armor and drew alien blood. "Impossible!" Vorthak snarled, backhanding Jake with his free hand. The blow sent Jake flying across the arena to crash into a rocky wall. His left shoulder screamed in pain, and he tasted blood in his mouth. But he was alive, and he had proven that Vorthak could be hurt. "You are more resourceful than expected," Vorthak admitted, checking his wound. "But tricks will only delay your death." Jake got back to his feet, favoring his injured shoulder. "Good thing I've got more than tricks." The battle entered its final phase. Both combatants were wounded now, and both had learned to respect their opponent. Vorthak was more cautious with his attacks, while Jake conserved his energy for the right moment. That moment came when Vorthak made his first real mistake. Confident that his armor could protect him from the human's primitive bullets, the Warlord charged across the open center of the arena. Jake waited until Vorthak was committed to his path, then raised his rifle and fired. But this shot was different. Instead of aiming for the armor, Jake aimed for Vorthak's weapon. The bullet struck the energy cannon's power coupling, causing it to overload. The weapon exploded in the Warlord's hands, sending him stumbling backward with burns across his chest and arms. "My weapon," Vorthak said in disbelief. "Machines break," Jake replied, chambering a new round. "It's what they do." 4. The first time in the duel, real fear flickered in Vorthak's yellow eyes. Without his ranged weapon, he would have to rely on claws and teeth against an opponent who had already proven capable of finding weaknesses in his armor. "You fight without honor," Vorthak accused. "I fight to win," the Warlord charged again, this time with desperate fury. His claws reached for Jake's throat, promising a quick death if they connected. Jake sidestepped the charge and brought his rifle around like a club, striking Vorthak across the back of the head. The blow staggered the alien but did not drop him. Vorthak spun and caught Jake with a backhand that sent the Marine sprawling. This time, Jake was slower getting up. His injured shoulder was affecting his balance, and he could feel exhaustion creeping in. "You have fought well for a primitive," Vorthak said, advancing slowly. "But this ends now." Jake struggled to his feet, rifle ready but ammunition running low. He had saved the special bullet for last, but he would only get one chance to use it. Vorthak raised his clawed hands for a final attack. Jake waited until the last possible second, then rolled aside and came up behind the Warlord. He pressed the rifle's muzzle against the gap in Vorthak's neck armor and pulled the trigger. The bullet with the alien's name engraved on it punched through armor, flesh, and bone. Warlord Vorthak, undefeated champion of 17 worlds, fell to his knees and then toppled forward. The arena fell completely silent. Jake stood over his fallen opponent, swaying slightly from exhaustion and injury. He reloaded his rifle automatically, a habit that had saved his life many times before. "Is it over?" he called out to the silent crowd. Ambassador Thorell's voice echoed through the arena. "Warlord Vorthak is dead. The human champion is victorious." The silence stretched for another moment, then erupted into chaos as thousands of alien voices expressed shock, disbelief, and in some cases, fear. Jake Morrison, a Marine from Detroit, had just changed the balance of power in the galaxy. The arena remained frozen in stunned silence for what felt like forever. Jake stood over Vorthak's massive body, rifle ready, his breath coming in short gasps. Blood trickled from cuts on his face and arms, and his left shoulder throbbed with each heartbeat. But he was alive, and the galaxy's most feared warlord was not. Ambassador Thorell was the first to speak, her voice carefully controlled despite the shock obvious in her large eyes. "The duel is concluded. Captain Jake Morrison of Earth is declared the victor." The alien crowd erupted into chaos. Thousands of voices spoke at once in dozens of languages, creating a wall of sound that echoed through the massive arena. Some spectators were already leaving, hurrying to spread the news. Others pressed closer to the barriers, trying to get a better look at the human who had done the impossible. In the Krex Empire delegation section, War Speaker Drex stared down at the arena floor with his mouth hanging open. The creature who had spoken so confidently about human arrogance was now speechless. Around him, other Krex officials argued in hushed tones about what this meant for their empire. "This is impossible," one of them hissed. "Vorthak has never been defeated." "Yet there he lies," Drex replied quietly. "Dead by the hand of an unenhanced human." In another section, the betting coordinators frantically tried to calculate payouts for the few individuals who had wagered on the human champion. The odds had been so heavily against Jake that the station's economy would be disrupted for months, but Jake paid no attention to the crowd's reaction. He knelt beside Vorthak's body and checked for vital signs, a habit from years of combat. The warlord was indeed dead, killed by a single shot to the neck joint, where natural armor gave way to softer tissue. "An impressive victory," a new voice said behind him. Jake turned to see a tall, elegant alien approaching. This one was different from the others he had met, moving with a grace that suggested either great age or great authority. Its skin was pale blue, and intricate patterns were tattooed across its visible limbs. "I am Elder Zoth of the Council of Ancients," the being said. "We are the closest thing this galaxy has to neutral observers." "Captain Morrison," Jake replied, keeping his rifle ready. "You may relax, Captain. The duel is over. And station law protects you now. Elder Zoth gestured toward Vorthak's body. In 300 years of observation, I have never seen Vorthak defeated. How did you know where to strike? Armor has weak points. You just have to find them. And the destruction of his weapon? Machines break if you hit them in the right place. Elder Zoth studied Jake with ancient eyes. Such simple answers for such a complex victory. Tell me, do all humans think this way? Marines do. Fascinating. The Elder made notes on a device that looked like living crystal. Your species has just announced itself to the galaxy in a very dramatic way. There will be consequences. What kind of consequences? Some species will seek alliance with Earth, hoping to gain human warriors for their own conflicts. Others will see humans as a threat to be eliminated. Many will simply be curious about the species that produces such fighters. Jake nodded grimly. I was afraid of that. You did not seek glory. I sought to protect human colonies. Everything else is politics. Medical teams finally arrived to tend to Jake's injuries. As they worked, he could see alien news crews interviewing spectators and recording detailed scans of the arena. The story was already spreading across the galaxy. Within hours, the first reports reached Earth. Admiral Parker watched the recordings in her office, surrounded by the Joint Chiefs and other officials. The room was completely quiet as they witnessed Jake's victory. My God, General Hayes whispered. He actually did it. More than that, Admiral Parker said. He made it look achievable. That might be even more important than the victory itself. Dr. Martinez pulled up strategic analyses on her tablet. Intelligence reports are already coming in. 3 Krex territories have declared independence from the Central Empire. 2 minor warlords have challenged Vorthak's successors for leadership. The entire power structure is collapsing. What about other species? Director Rodriguez asked. Mixed reactions. The hegemony is mobilizing additional forces near human space, probably as a precaution. The Zephyrian traders are already sending diplomatic feelers about expanded commerce agreements. Everyone wants to understand what just happened. Back on the station, Jake underwent medical treatment in a private facility. His injuries were painful but not life-threatening. Bruised ribs, a dislocated shoulder, various cuts and scrapes. Nothing that would not heal with time and proper care. Lieutenant Katie Walsh arrived with the shuttle crew to escort him back to the Defiance. She found him sitting on the edge of a medical bed, staring out a viewport at the stars. How do you feel? She asked. Tired. Ready to go home. The whole galaxy is talking about you. You're famous. Jake grimaced. Great. Just what I wanted. The Admiral wants to debrief you personally when we get back to Earth. I figured. Anything else I should know? Katie hesitated. Sir, there are already requests from other species. They want to hire human soldiers as mercenaries or advisors. Some are offering enormous sums. And some of our own people are interested. Word is spreading through the military that humans can compete with any alien warrior. Morale has never been higher. Jake stood up carefully, testing his shoulder. Good. People should have confidence in themselves. Is that what this was about? Proving human capability? It was about stopping a bully from hurting innocent people. The rest is just side effects. The return journey to Earth took 3 days. Jake spent most of the time in his quarters, writing reports and trying to process what had happened. He had volunteered for what seemed like a suicide mission, and somehow survived. More than survived, He had won decisively. But victory brought its own problems. Communications from Earth brought news of the galactic response to his triumph. Some reactions were positive, but others were concerning. Several alien species were already adjusting their defensive postures around human space. Others were making aggressive moves in regions where they had previously been cautious. "You've changed the game," Captain Hayes told him during one of their conversations. "The galaxy thought humans were just another minor species. Now they know better. Is that good or bad?" "Both. We'll have more opportunities, but also more challenges. Everyone will be watching to see what we do next." Jake nodded thoughtfully. "Then we better make sure we do the right things." On the final day of the journey, Jake received a personal message from Admiral Parker. In it, she thanked him for his service and informed him that he was being promoted to major. She also mentioned that several government officials wanted to meet with him about his experiences. More politics, Jake muttered, but he understood the necessity. As the Defiance approached Earth, Jake stood in the observation deck watching his home planet grow larger. It looked the same as when he had left, but he knew that everything had changed. Humanity was no longer an unknown quantity in galactic affairs. They were players now, with all the benefits and dangers that status implied. The communication system chimed with an incoming message from Earth Defense Command. Admiral Parker's face appeared on the screen, her expression serious but pleased. "Welcome home, Major Morrison. The President wants to see you as soon as you land." "Yes, ma'am." "Any idea what he wants to discuss?" "The future. Your victory has opened doors we didn't know existed, but it's also painted a target on humanity's back. We need to decide how to move forward." Jake nodded. "I understand. One more thing, Jake, thank you. What you did out there saved more than just our colonies. You've given humanity a chance to stand as equals in this galaxy." The transmission ended, leaving Jake alone with his thoughts as Earth filled the viewport. He had volunteered to fight one alien warrior to protect human settlements. Instead, he had fought for humanity's place among the stars. The shot that killed Vorthak had indeed been heard round the galaxy. Now came the hard part, living with the consequences. 3 weeks after Jake Morrison returned to Earth, the galaxy was still reacting to his victory. In the diplomatic quarter of New Geneva, Ambassador Helen Martinez worked around the clock fielding requests, demands, and threats from dozens of alien species. Her staff had grown from 12 people to over 60, and they still could not keep up with the volume of communication. "Ambassador, the Zephyrian Trade Council is here for their appointment," her aide announced. Helen rubbed her tired eyes and checked her schedule. This was her 8th meeting of the day, and it was only noon. "Send them in." 3 tall, graceful aliens entered her office. Their leader, Trade Master Kef, had visited Earth several times before Jake's victory. Back then, the Zephyrians had treated humanity as a minor species worth only basic trade agreements. Now they wanted to discuss military contracts. "Ambassador Martinez," Kef said in his melodic voice, "thank you for seeing us on such short notice." "What can I do for you?" "Trade Master, we wish to hire human soldiers. Our frontier settlements have been plagued by pirates for months. Local security forces have proven inadequate." Helen kept her expression neutral. "The Earth Defense Forces are not mercenaries, Trade Master." "Of course not. We propose a mutual defense agreement. We provide advanced technology and trade benefits. You provide military advisors and, if necessary, combat units." It was the same offer Helen had heard 6 times this week from different species. Ever since news of Jake's victory spread, everyone wanted human soldiers. Some offers were legitimate, requests for help. Others were thinly disguised attempts to study human military capabilities. "I'll discuss your proposal with the appropriate officials," she said diplomatically. After the Zephyrians left, Helen's aide brought her the latest intelligence reports. The picture they painted was both encouraging and troubling. The Krex Empire was in chaos. Vorthak's death had triggered a succession crisis that split the Empire into 3 factions. 2 minor warlords were fighting for control, while the 3rd faction attempted to negotiate peace with their former enemies. Human colonies that had been under threat were now relatively safe, but the instability was affecting trade routes throughout that sector. The hegemony had taken a different approach. Instead of seeking alliance with humanity, they had increased military patrols near human space and begun construction of new defensive installations. Their official position was that they were protecting their borders from the chaos in Krex territory, but intelligence suggested they saw humans as a potential threat. Most concerning were reports from the Outer Rim. Several previously neutral species had begun aggressively expanding their territories, apparently believing that if humans could defeat the mighty Vorthak, the old balance of power was no longer relevant. Helen's communicator chimed with an urgent message from Admiral Parker. "Helen, we need to talk. Situation developing." 20 minutes later, Helen sat in the Admiral's office reviewing real-time intelligence. The news was not good. 3 hours ago, the hegemony attacked the Altarian Republic, Admiral Parker explained. They claim it's retaliation for border violations, but our sources say it's a territorial grab. What does this have to do with us? The Altarians are asking for human military assistance. They're offering a significant technology transfer in exchange for Marine advisors. Helen studied the star charts showing the conflict zone. Are we considering it? The President wants options. The Altarians have advanced medical technology that could save millions of human lives, but getting involved in an alien war would set a precedent we might regret. And if we don't help them, they'll probably lose. The hegemony will absorb their territory and gain access to those same medical advances. It was the kind of decision that would have been unthinkable a month ago. Before Jake's victory, humanity was too weak to matter in galactic politics. Now they were strong enough that their choices could affect the balance of power. Meanwhile, on the Marine base at Camp Pendleton, Jake Morrison was discovering that fame was more dangerous than combat. He had been promoted to major and assigned to a new position as special military advisor, which seemed to involve mostly giving interviews and attending meetings. "Sir, you have 3 more media requests and a briefing with the Joint Chiefs at 1400, his new aide, Corporal Lisa Bennett, informed him. Jake looked up from the training reports he was reviewing. "Cancel the media requests. I'm a Marine, not a celebrity." "Sir, the orders come from above. Public Relations wants to maintain the positive momentum from your victory." "What positive momentum?" Corporal Bennett handed him a tablet showing public opinion polls. Support for military spending had increased dramatically. Recruitment was up 60% across all branches. Congressional approval for expanded space exploration had jumped from 30% to 70%. "The whole country is behind the military now," she explained. "Your victory showed that humans can compete with any alien species." Jake sighed and set down the tablet. "All I did was my job." "Sir, if you don't mind me saying so, I think you changed more than just public opinion. My little brother enlisted last week because of what you did. He said he wanted to be like the Marine who beat the alien champion." That gave Jake pause. "How old is your brother?" 17, sir. Just graduated high school. Jake made a mental note to visit the recruit training depot soon. If his actions were inspiring young people to join the military, he wanted to make sure they understood what they were signing up for. The briefing with the Joint Chiefs was more serious than Jake had expected. Instead of discussing his experiences, they wanted his opinion on strategic questions. Major Morrison, General Hayes began, based on your encounter with Vorthak, how do you assess alien military capabilities? Depends on the species, sir. Vorthak was tough, but he relied too much on superior equipment and intimidation. He wasn't used to fighting opponents who adapted quickly. Do you think humans have a general advantage in combat? Jake considered the question carefully. We think differently than most of the aliens I've observed. We're more flexible, more willing to improvise. But we shouldn't get overconfident. Vorthak was one individual. Other species might be harder to beat. Director Rodriguez leaned forward. What about technology? Could our standard equipment compete with alien weapons? Sometimes. My rifle worked. Fine against Vorthak once I found the right target. But some of the energy weapons I saw would have cooked me if they had connected. We need to be smart about what fights we pick. Admiral Parker pulled up a star chart showing recent alien military movements. The galaxy is more unstable now than it's been in decades. Multiple species are making aggressive moves, partly because they're testing the new status quo. Some want to ally with us, others want to eliminate us before we become a bigger threat. What's our position, ma'am? That's what we're trying to figure out. We could become the galaxy's mercenary force, hiring out human soldiers to the highest bidder. We could focus on defensive alliances to protect our own territory. Or we could try to become a major power ourselves. Jake thought about the young people enlisting because of his example. What option keeps the most humans alive? Unknown. Each path has risks. After the briefing, Jake walked through the base, observing the training exercises. The Marines looked the same as always, but something felt different. They moved with more confidence, more purpose. Word of his victory had reached every corner of the military, and it had changed how they saw themselves. Sergeant Kevin Torres, one of Jake's former squad leaders, approached him near the rifle range. Major, good to see you back. Good to be back, Sergeant. How are the troops? Motivated, sir. Really motivated. We've got Marines asking for assignments to alien contact zones. Everyone wants a chance to prove themselves. That's good, but make sure they understand this isn't a game. The galaxy just got a lot more dangerous for humans. Yes, sir. But it also got a lot more interesting. That evening, Jake sat in his quarters reading reports from across human space. The picture was complex, but not entirely negative. Yes, some alien species saw humanity as a threat, but others were eager to establish positive relationships with the species that had produced such an effective warrior. Trade agreements were being negotiated that would give humanity access to technologies they could never have developed alone. Scientific exchanges were opening new fields of research. Cultural programs were introducing humans to art and philosophy from across the galaxy. But military tensions were rising too. 3 different species had made what intelligence analysts described as probing attacks on human outposts. Nothing serious enough to trigger a war, but clear tests of human resolve. Jake's communicator chimed with a message from his sister Mary, who taught school on New Angeles Colony. Jake, I'm so proud of what you did, but I have to tell you, things are changing out here. We're getting alien visitors now, some friendly and some not so much. The kids are asking questions about Earth and humanity that I don't know how to answer. What do I tell them about what we are and where we're going? Jake stared at the message for a long time before responding. A month ago, Mary's biggest concern was whether her students understood basic mathematics. Now she was dealing with humanity's place in galactic civilization. That evening, Jake sat in his quarters cleaning his rifle, the same weapon he had carried against Vorthak. The special bullet was long gone, but he had made others. Each one was engraved with a simple phrase, "Next question?" His footlocker contained 3 medals, including the Distinguished Service Cross for his victory at Wolf 359. But more importantly, it contained letters from Marines serving across human space, reports of successful missions, and pictures from his sister's school showing human and alien children working together. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. Corporal Bennett entered with a message tablet. "Sir, priority communication from the USS Endeavor. They're requesting military consultation for a contact situation with an unknown species." Jake read the message quickly. First contact with a new alien civilization, potentially hostile, requesting guidance on protocols and threat assessment. "Tell them I'll be there in 12 hours, he said, already reaching for his gear. "Sir, the transport isn't scheduled until tomorrow morning." "Then we'll take a fast courier. This is exactly the kind of situation that can go wrong quickly." As he prepared for another mission, Jake reflected on how much had changed since that day he walked into Admiral Parker's office to volunteer. Humanity was no longer a minor species struggling for recognition. They were players in galactic civilization, with all the opportunities and responsibilities that entailed. The rifle that had killed Vorthak now served a different purpose. Instead of facing down alien champions, it was a tool for protecting diplomatic missions, ensuring fair negotiations, and reminding both human and alien alike that some principles were worth fighting for. Jake Morrison had returned to being what he had always been, a Marine doing his job. The difference was that his job now involved keeping the peace among the stars. Outside his window, the first stars of evening were becoming visible. Somewhere among them were human colonies building new lives, alien civilizations learning about humanity, and probably new challenges that would require someone to stand up and say, "Not on my watch." 6 months after the duel that changed everything, Jake Morrison stood before a formation of new Marine recruits at Paris Island. The young faces looking back at him reminded him of himself 15 years ago, eager and nervous about what lay ahead. But these recruits were different from previous generations. They had enlisted in a galaxy where humanity mattered. "Some of you joined because of what happened at Wolf 359, Jake said, his voice carrying across the parade ground. "You think being a Marine means fighting alien champions and becoming famous? Let me tell you what being a Marine really means." He gestured toward the training facilities around them. "It means getting up at 0500 when you don't want to. It means carrying a wounded buddy when your own legs feel like they're going to give out. It means doing the right thing even when no one is watching, and especially when everyone is." Among the recruits stood Corporal Bennett's younger brother, Danny. He had grown 6 inches since enlisting, but still had the eager expression of someone who wanted to save the galaxy single-handedly. "The alien I fought was dangerous because he thought being strong made him unbeatable," Jake continued. "But strength isn't what wins battles. Preparation wins battles. Training wins battles. Refusing to quit when everything goes wrong wins battles." After the address, Jake walked through the training areas, observing the new techniques being taught. The Corps had adapted quickly to the realities of potential alien contact. Recruits now learned about different gravity environments, alien psychology, and equipment that might not function according to human engineering principles. Drill instructor, Staff Sergeant Maria Santos, approached him near the combat course. "Sir, the recruits are good, but they're expecting too much. Half of them think they'll be fighting alien warlords within a year. And the other half think they're going to be protecting Earth from invasion. Neither group understands that most Marines spend their careers doing routine security work and training exercises. Jake nodded. Keep them focused on the basics. The dramatic stuff takes care of itself. His communicator buzzed with a message from Admiral Parker. Jake, need you in Washington tomorrow. New situation developing. The next day, Jake sat in a secure briefing room in the Pentagon, listening to intelligence reports that painted a complex picture of galactic politics. The chaos following Vorthak's death had stabilized somewhat, but new challenges were emerging. Tuck. Altarian conflict ended 3 weeks ago, Admiral Parker explained. The hegemony withdrew after we provided technical advisors to help the Altarians upgrade their defenses. No shots fired, but our presence was enough to change the equation. That's good news, Jake said. It is, but it's also set a precedent. We're now getting requests for similar assistance from dozens of species, some legitimate, some not so much. Director Rodriguez activated a holographic display showing human space and surrounding territories. We've established formal diplomatic relations with 17 alien species, trade agreements with 12, mutual defense pacts with 6. Sounds like progress. Mostly it is. But success brings its own problems. The Admiral pulled up a classified report. 3 different species have approached us about joining a coalition against the hegemony. 2 others want us to mediate territorial disputes, and 1 particularly aggressive species has suggested that humans would make excellent mercenaries for their expansion wars. Jake studied the star chart showing the various political alignments. What's our official position? Still being developed. The President wants humanity to be a stabilizing force in the galaxy, but not at the cost of getting pulled into every alien conflict. Dr. Martinez, who had been promoted to Director of Alien Affairs, added her perspective. The cultural exchange. Programs are going well. We've learned more about galactic civilization in 6 months than in the previous 50 years. But there's still a lot of suspicion about human capabilities. What kind of suspicion? Some species think we're hiding advanced military technology. Others believe we have some kind of natural advantage that makes us superior fighters. A few are convinced that Earth is secretly planning to conquer the galaxy. Jake almost laughed. If they could see our budget meetings, they'd know better. The point is, Admiral Parker said, your victory created opportunities but also expectations. The galaxy is watching to see what humans do next. What do we want to do next? That's the question. We could become a major military power, using human soldiers to enforce peace and stability. We could focus on exploration and scientific advancement, or we could try to find a middle path. After the briefing, Jake had a private meeting with Admiral Parker in her office. Outside the windows, he could see the Potomac River and the monuments that represented humanity's struggles and achievements. Can I ask you something off the record? The Admiral said. Of course. Do you ever regret volunteering for the Vorthak mission? Jake considered the question. No. But sometimes I wonder, what would have happened if I had lost? The galaxy would probably look very different. Maybe. Or maybe someone else would have found a way to stand up to him eventually. Admiral Parker smiled. That's very human of you. Most species would take credit for changing galactic history. You act like you just did your job. I did do my job. Everything else is politics. That afternoon, Jake visited Arlington National Cemetery. He stood before the memorial wall that now included the names of humans who had died in conflicts across the galaxy. The list was still short, but it was growing as humanity's presence expanded among the stars. Colonel Frank Bennett found him there as the sun was setting. "Paying respects?" Bennett asked. "Thinking about responsibility," Jake replied. "Every decision we make now affects billions of people across dozens of worlds. Heavy burden. Yeah, but someone has to carry it." They stood in comfortable silence for a few minutes, watching the lights come on across the city. "You know," Bennett said, "I've been thinking about what you did out there. It wasn't just about beating one alien warrior. It was about proving that humans belong in the big leagues. I hope we're ready for it. We'll figure it out. We always do." The next morning, Jake returned to his duties at Camp Pendleton. His official title was still Special Military Advisor, but his real job had evolved into something between teacher and strategic planner. He reviewed training programs, evaluated new recruits, and consulted on missions that might involve alien contact. His sister Mary visited during her semester break from New Angeles. She looked older, more serious than when he had last seen her. "How are things on the colony?" he asked as they walked along the beach near the base. "Complicated. We've got alien students now, exchange programs with 3 different species. The kids are learning about civilizations that are thousands of years older than ours." That sounds positive. It is, mostly. But some of the alien children have abilities that make our kids feel inferior. Telepathy, enhanced memory, natural, resistance to radiation. It's changing how human children see themselves. Jake stopped walking and looked out at the Pacific Ocean. "What do you tell them?" "The same thing Dad used to tell us. That being human isn't about being the strongest or the smartest. It's about not giving up, helping each other, and fixing things that are broken." Good advice. The alien kids are learning that too. Turns out determination and stubbornness are rarer qualities than we thought.